Yo, what up, fam? It's your boy, D Tripper, in the motherfucking building. I'm just a 37-year-old dude, Kiwi dude, living in New Zealand, Auckland City, baby. Auckland City, AK, baby. And today is the first episode of Drugs. Pretty simple title, pretty much explains it. Um, I really get into it straight away. Why am I doing these videos? I know there's probably a lot of people that are like, why someone made a video about drugs? Drugs are a real thing. We're living in the era now where if you can get your penis chopped off and have everything reduced to make you a female, then we should be able to speak about drugs. I think we're in open enough, whether you believe it's right or wrong, we're living in an open enough day and age in society where I think that we should be speaking about these things. I think if we're ever gonna heal, like the war on drugs, just sorry to say it, but you've lost. Drugs are still a thing, so let's give up fighting and start figuring out how we're gonna sort this out moving into the future. And that's my reasons for doing this. And honestly, I think coming from someone who's used drugs a lot of their life, I think it's more important to get our version of the side of the story. This is more for an educational purpose. I'm not glorifying drugs whatsoever. I'm not on here promoting them either. I've seen drugs do some evil things and I've also seen them do some really amazing things. This is a place where I want us to be able to have a conversation. This isn't about right, wrong, shouldn't, should. This is about us just speaking. We need to speak. I'm from New Zealand. Per capita, there is a high level of drug use, but there's also a high level of suicide. There's also a high level of depression. There's also a high level of mental health issues within both sexes, all genres, all everything. There's a sadness. And a lot of people use drugs to get through the sadness. And sometimes it's one single thing, sometimes it's a lifetime of shit. So I'm a bit rough around the edges. Hey, if you fellas can't tell, today I really want to speak about past use, kind of when I first got into it. For any parents out there, you've never used drugs in your life, your kids using at the moment. This is a perspective of my personal journey within the drugs, and I class alcohol as a drug too, just so we're very clear. Alcohol is a drug. It is very addictive. I believe a lot of things are sex, gambling. There's a lot of things that aren't just substance abuse. So I will touch on all of them. This is the first episode on drugs, so this is going to be a rough breakdown, I guess, of me as a person to see whether or not you want to continue watching these on this journey. So at the moment, I do want to speak about my past, like more the reasons when I was very young. I'm 37 now. I started using alcohol first, and then marijuana after that, and I'll take the story from there. But in order for us to heal, especially as a nation, I'm speaking to my fellow Kiwis, my fellow New Zealanders. We need to have this conversation, man. I didn't put drugs on earth, but yes, I have used them most of my life. Um, it is a real thing. We need to speak about it more. There should be a class in school about this and sex education, not on that bloody Harold. Harold says not to. Well, man, my fuck, shut the fuck up. We need to have some honest conversations now within our culture, our nation, and within us as a species, as human beings, man. Like what we're just gonna keep showing up, pretend it's not happening. It's happening. We're in the stage of evolution where I feel like we can speak about this. So this is just me, again, not glorifying and not promoting, but having a conversation out loud. And anyone who wants to join the conversation, put your comments in the comment section. Like and subscribe, so and then put the bell on, so then because I am doing 10 episodes, only 10 episodes of drugs. We'll take it from there, but I really want these to be super important as educational tool for those who haven't, and maybe you just want to understand. Maybe your husband, your partner, your girlfriend. I've done most things on earth, and I've done them to a high level, a very freaking insane. I'm lucky to be alive. Am I grateful for every day? Yes, and that's why I'm doing the damn thing, people. So nothing but love, nothing but love. The more you watch me, the more you understand I'm more of a on the spot type of person. I'm a bit of a freestyler. So I've written down some questions. I've kind of thought them over. I haven't rehearsed anything. These are just my thoughts. I'm nervous. I'm gonna be honest. Like, this is a taboo subject. Like, we talk about anal more than we talk about drugs, you know. And just so you ladies know, yes, that is a good normal conversation with the boys at work. But no, I shouldn't joke about. But I'm trying to make this lighthearted. Why? Because I feel like there's a lot of Karens out there that are like, it's wrong. And it's like, well, if your son's still doing it, your son's still doing it, man. I'm just trying to help you get a better understanding of why. So let's just jump into it. What is drug use? Drug use to me, personally, when I first went into it, I had a lot of depression. I'm not gonna go fully into my backstory, but it wasn't an abusive, violent, or it was a different upbringing for me, man. There was a lot of confusion. My mum, who raised me, wasn't my mum. I was actually adopted, so like I'm a little bit coloured and grew up in kind of a really white family. I'll go get into that video another time. But I had real issues with who I was as a person, as identity. And so through time, anger grew, and then after anger came sadness. And that sadness, man, I just wanted to die every day. I was very young when this started happening. I became a runaway, lived on the streets for many years, sniffed everything in the sun, like you name it, man. I was drunk and methylated spirits by the bottle loads, like, and that's what I mean by I'm super lucky to be alive. We snorted Panadol one time, man, like it was a 12 pack, and then years later I found out it's one of the most OD like drugs there is on the market. We'll get into that drug side of things too at some point in one of these episodes. But yeah, back to it. So for mine it was a number. It wasn't even a number. I hated my life that much. But in New Zealand, we're taught staunch. We're like, hey, we're staunch people. So like, suicide's not really an option. Like, no matter how much you wake up fucking full of pain every day, you never think of that shit. So you just figure out ways to kind of get through, deal with it, get through. When you're from the hood, and when I say the hood, I just mean a place that just probably didn't have as much money as the next district or two over. Um, Everyone kind of had the same sadness. You could feel sadness in the air. No one spoke about it. When we were growing up, there was no such thing as depression. There's no such thing as anxiety. What the fuck? That's just that pit of like disgusting, twisted guts that you have in your guts. No one spoke about it though. So everyone figured out their own ways. Some ran from the hood and never came back, you know. Everyone developed their own ways. Me, I started drinking very young, by myself too. I wasn't to be at parties. I was drinking to go to school. That's like where I started. So drug use to me is a psychological, spiritual, and just internal number. And we've all been through some shit, and that's why we've chosen to go that way. Why have I used? Well, I pretty much touched on that. Pain. Pain's massive, man. Especially hidden pain. A lot of us can't talk about some shit that happened in our childhood, and I'm even saying it's got to be ill, but there's just these little things that fucked us up. And they did fuck us up, man. Don't even get that fucking shit twisted. I don't care if you come from a rich family, poor family, black, white, yellow, Asian. All of us felt pain, and some of that pain fucked us up. And some of us learned how to deal with it in a healthy way, and some of us learned how to deal with it in any way we fucking could, whether you call it unhealthy or not. We survival mechanism. So yes, what have I used? On and off, pretty much everything except for heroin. Alcohol was my main drug of choice. It numbed me more than anything. I'd black out. Whew, there goes a whole day. Whew, there goes a whole year. Whew, there goes 10 years. Shit. And just touching on that, I was told, I think when I was about 16, 17, by a doctor that I would be dead by the time I was 18 because of how much I was drinking. I was puking blood, shitting blood, pissing blood. It was insane. 10 years later, I'm still alive. I'm like, fuck, I need to come up with a plan. So another reason I'm doing this. So I extended my addictions for much longer than they needed to. So I was a proper full-blown fucking off your face cunt all the time, but I functioned too. So I turned up, paid my bills, had a clean credit rating. I was, according to society, just ticking over like every other cunt. How has it affected my life? That question in itself, that's probably too big to answer as one, but I'd say majorly is probably the best word I can think of, whether it be good or bad. It definitely affects your life in the sense of, say this is your path in life and your timeline. When you come into this area, it goes, and to a degree, you think your options have opened up, but really it's just like, hey, these paths weren't a part of your normal foreseeing. As a normal person growing up, you pretty much get given a manual. You get married, you have a family, you get a good job, you get a mortgage, pay your house, you die. So, that is a normal life, and not playing it down, Obviously, that's not life I'm going to live, but that's typically how a normal human as a species rotates through his life cycle, if you're thinking about it in line terms, kind of terms. Lion King terms. Hey. So yes, it affected my life, and I'm gonna be honest. I think whether it was the main factor or not, it was a big factor in a lot of relationships that I've lost. I now have a 20-ish old boy that doesn't really know me because I lost him during these periods when I was a pisshead, and I was in rehab at the time, and SIFs took him, and never really gotten to know him to this day because of that. So, and I'm not going to go into that, but yeah, that really affected. There's a lot of things. I lost my wife, and a family. I've lost plenty of families. I've got 3 baby mamas and 4 kids. Like, all giggles aside, each time a family leaves you, man, it breaks you a little more. So it was hard not to go back to that sense of addiction. But addiction definitely was a big factor in losing them. So it did affect my life a lot. Why am I choosing to speak about this on YouTube? I believe this is a platform that is free for me to have an opinion, and we all freedom of speech these days. I think it's a beautiful thing. I respect anyone who has their own opinion, even if I disagree with it very strongly. I've come across like mega white power people, mega gang members. I've disagreed with so many people, but because they're honest, I respect them fully. I respect them, and I've actually got along with a lot of them after disagreeing and arguing with them for half a night. So I respect anyone who's got an opinion. This is my perspective on this subject, and I want to give it to any parents, especially. I'm thinking more about my parents. I'm a bit older now. My parents, I'm the first person in my family to ever use drugs. Like, there's a couple of drinkers, but there ain't none like me. I'm the king of the chain. So for parents out there that are like, my child is, I'm thinking the worst case scenario. Hey man, I'm smiling these days. I'm trying to do a lot of positivity for the world. I did walk a shitty path, man, but at the top of that path, sometimes there is this glorious view when you've walked through the gutters and the gullies and then walked up that rocky mountain. You cut your feet open, you bruised, you battered, you bashed, but now you're at the top of the mountain and you're looking over that beautiful fucking sunset. It can be a beautiful thing, but trying to get out to the other side, it takes a lot. So yeah, I want to speak about this because I think we are in an era now where it shouldn't be taboo. There shouldn't be a you and me. There should be us as a society. I know this is wishful thinking to a degree, but I think the more people are speaking their mind, the more we can meet in the middle. And that's all I'm trying to do. I'm not trying to convince anyone anything, I'm just telling you through my experiences. Not all of it was bad, but I'm not going to come on here and make it sound like I'm trying to say, yeah, this shit was, and just heaps and heaps of sex and stop. Not glorifying. Jokes. So yeah, why do I think it's important to speak about it? I really do think it's important. I think us, especially in New Zealand, stand up. Hey, what? Step up and speak out or whatever it is. Stand up and speak up. Man, that's what I'm doing. I'm speaking up on behalf, which is a big fucking percentage of our country who use drugs. And again, I'm not trying to say that it's a good or bad thing. I'm just trying to say that it's an actual thing. I didn't start it. It's never going to finish. Oh, sorry, I drink keeps sugar. That's my new addiction, sugar. Hey, and if you want to look at the stats, this is fucking one of the worst in the world, but still consuming. Okay. The long-term effects, I think, now I'm 37. It's hard to tell. My granddad just kind of passed a little while ago from I can't remember if it was Alzheimer's or one of those ones where you start to lose your shit. And so my nanny, God bless her cotton socks and her beautiful soul, told me that I have a 50-50 chance of getting it. So now I'm starting, I don't know whether it's the drugs or just me being a hypochondriac. But memory loss, for me personally, I can remember things exactly if there's something I care about. When people are like, I told you this, I don't care, it's not sticking. People's birthdays, I don't know why, but it will never stick, so I've given up. I don't care. Why can't I be me? You're like, oh, everyone's like, you missed it. It's your birthday, man. Like, oh, let's celebrate it. I'm different. Because I can't remember them, I've had to adapt. So I wasn't using drugs when I was a kid, and I still can't remember birthdays. So was there that? My jaw. Like, when I really think, it does swing a little. That's probably, I was on, smoked real heavy meth for probably like 10 years. I know, look, I know lucky, I know lucky, and I don't mean like you, yeah, just think about all the people you know that have done shit. And then times that by 10 is kind of where I'm at. I try not to glorify that. And I never really tell anyone that. But I did heaps by myself. I didn't need a party. I was the party, motherfuckers. You are, yeah, well, I need to be 100% me for this to work. So I'm just going to be me, man. You think about stories like when you think of like the old rock and rollers and that type of, bro, that's what level I can still be on, but I don't need drugs and alcohol to do it anymore. I do it straight. But there is a lot of long-term effects for people who don't understand it. I was lucky enough that I actually grew up in after leaving home in a few different environments where things were explained to me by very heavy, broken, you know, users. So they're all like, we love you, Dave. We don't want you to end up like us. Um, these are some guidelines, rules, some understandings of what's and what not to do. Guess what? You know that I'm so lucky to have had that because my mind for what I've done, man, I should be fucked. Like just drinking methylated spirits alone. Like think about that for a second. Think about that for a second. And then after that, getting spray can, and I'd convulse. I'd have froth balls coming out my mouth, man. Like my mates would chase people around, whacking them over. My mates weren't like that at all. It was just me, and no one understood my pain because I couldn't speak about it. So there is a lot of long-term effects, but there's a lot of long-term effects from life too. So next question. It says funny stories, but I'm in the mood that where this. I feel like this is getting communicated well in a more mature sense, and maybe a more responsible, if that's the right words. I'm not really responsible. If you go and watch any of my other videos, what to do when someone you know is using or an addict or on drugs and you don't know what to do. I'm going to give you a couple of options. They're not what you're going to want to hear. I'm just going to be honest. And this is my own opinion through very, very, I guess, professional, if you want a little class it. I got a master's degree on this shit just from being around it. I'm not, again, not trying to glorify it. Just, there's people who party and then there's people like me where there's a couple of years later and you're like, holy shit, that party went for a while. So just being very honest, when someone you know is affected by addiction, it's going to be real hard to hear, but I think this is probably one of the closest ones. Sometimes you've just got to let it run its course. And I know that's probably really, I'm not going to say fatalistic, but I'm going to say realistic. I'm going to be honest. Sometimes you've just got to wait for that person to fall completely apart. And when you think they're rock bottom, man, they got a shovel at rock bottom trying to crawl a bit deeper. And it's usually this is a big thing too. A lot of the time it is a childhood thing that's grown and manifested into this disgusting, dirty demon inside of them, and they don't know what to do with it, and they don't know how to speak about it. Silence themselves off as Kiwis, especially us men, man. You fellas need to speak up a bit more, bros. And that's some real shit, man. Fuck, being at a few funerals, fucking that type of shit. So, man, just speak up. But that it manifests into just darkness inside of you. And once you get to a point where you feel like you can never tell another soul, it's very hard to come back. And drug use and alcohol is a big number of that. And sometimes you have to you have to stand back, cry into your pillow at night, watch your loved ones be torn apart by it, and really just hope for the best and hope they come out the other side. A lot of people I know have gone through the worst, and in order to come out the other side, a lot of us have found love and come out the other side. There's a few of us that have had angels sent to us and like, oh my gosh, this person saved my life. Truth. There's facts to you ladies too. Hey, real quick too, mad props to all the ladies that held it down, man, because I know a lot of us, my circle, whoa. I ain't even gonna go into that. We were that level, and for you ladies that held it down for us, man, blessings. Stay blessed, like completely. All the women in the world that have held it down for children and for their partner, and for any men that have held it down for their missus. Can't think of any at the moment, but there's probably a few of you out there. You probably need even more reward because it is very rare. Not saying that we're scum on the earth, but us men are wretched things. But yeah, so first, sometimes you just gotta let it run its course. As shit as that is to say. Secondly, try not to shut them off. Like a lot of people are like, you're cut from the family. That is one of the worst things you can do. Like, I know there's an old school way of doing it because they didn't have many more options. These days, we got 1,000 options, man. I know people that are homeless that don't really sleep on the streets, but they haven't lived in a house like forever. They just stay on people's couches and beds. This is another way of them adapting. When you say fuck off forever, guess what? They got 20 options. So you kind of fucked with that one. Before, people used to have to come home because, shit was different. So don't shut them down. Don't shut them down. Try to stay open to them. I'm not even going to say, you can't reward them for it either, man. Like, if you are going to give them money and they are in a bad position and they're trying to, like, take and swap and, you know what's happening. Every time they come around and say they need some food for money or top up their phone or whatever, you know what's going on. So, if you are going to give them money, give them a real good kick in the ass. Like, not a too harsh, but like enough to, like, maybe a shin kick, but not verbally, not physically. And just let them know that you care about them more than anything. Massive. That's a piercer. Bro, hitting them with compassion while they're at a low, fuck, it stings sometimes. Oh, shit, like, oh, here's some money, but wait, remember that we love you. And not like in the sense of like you reading the shit out of a fucking book. Get into your soul and your heart if you really care about that person, you want to save them. Or help them move, or at least into a manageable direction. Because I know there's a lot of people that can manage their drug use now, and it's like, once a month kind of thing, and they can still party, get it out of their system kind of thing. Don't reward them, but at the same time, don't cut them off completely. I know that one's probably a bit more of a complicated thing to say. And third thing I'd probably say is just patience. There's probably 3 things you probably don't want to hear. Let it run its cycle. Be understanding, and now I'm saying patience. But again, I think it comes back to that first one. It just sometimes has to run its course. I know that's shit to hear. I know that's really hard to hear. I know everyone knows all the other ways, rehab and confine them from their friends, take their cell phone off them, that type of shit. That doesn't really have a good strike rate. It does for people that weren't meant to be in that scene in the first place because they're like, fuck, that should fuck me up. Whereas people that are like, oh my gosh, this makes me feel better. That's when you really got to keep an eye on it. Because there's a difference between using and enhancing a situation to make what is already good better, and then there's trying to use drugs to take you from a shitty feeling to at least a reasonable feeling. So, what to do when someone's affected? Love them. Hey, I see all these homeless people in Auckland City, man. They lost love first for themselves and then by others. So just try to remember that. Again, these are just my opinions, man. I've seen these work. It's the only reason I'm giving them out. They've worked on me. I've seen them work on others. I was the worst. Like when it came to anything like that. Like I wouldn't say I was an addict, but I was they call it a poly user, which means I didn't really have one. I needed everything. Because I'm a nice guy and I've got a pretty good sense of humor. I used it as my hustle. Not my hustle, but because people like me, they'll be like, "Want some?" I'm like, "Nah." Then they'd be like, "Want some? You sure?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And I was just like that dude. So love. That's all I can say, ain't? Is remember how much you loved him before it happened. Hey, how about that? Remember how much you loved him before it happened, and that'll help on the way. And I'm gonna be honest, sometimes people are gonna be lost where you need to a degree at some point accept that, and then I think it makes things a bit easier. Just in case. Not saying that they are. Just saying that I think if you care about them, like you say you care about them, and not just because you feel like society thinks that you should, and it's your son or it's your partner, and everyone's watching. Fuck you. Love them because you love them, and if you don't, cut them. Man, you don't like. I want to be honest. I was one of those bad apples. I was cut. I can completely understand it too. No grudges held at all. No grudges held against my family at all. I'm the kink in the link, and that's why I'm trying to help other families, so they don't end up in a lot of situations that I went through. I'm very lucky to have a kind heart still after everything I've been through. Once you've been beaten to the ground so many times, you tend to get nasty, and it's easier. It is easier too, I want to tell you, for a lot of people who know people that are cold, and it's because they're protecting themselves. I was cold for a long time. Cold as in just didn't care about anything or anyone. What can you do when someone's not scared of death anymore? Stand back and be like, that's a crazy motherfucker. So to have less crazy motherfuckers in the world, we need love more. Okay, next question. To better understand drug use, it's like any addiction, man. You know, when you feel like shit and you go and eat some chocolate, same thing. You know, when you're feeling down, oh, maybe a shower, warm me up, change the body chemicals inside of your body. So what we're trying to do, we're just trying to alter, we're trying to manipulate out the way that we feel. That's what drug use is. Like a lot of people take pharmaceuticals. What's the difference? Nothing. One's illegal, one's illegal, and one's legal. But the ones that are legal have had so many studies, but we don't see none of them. Not trying to compare them, but both sides of the spectrum haven't really had studies that are non-biased. And the illegal drugs have had constant studies on them that are very biased. And that's just off the back of how we were born and raised. A lot of our countries do come from Christianity-based cultures and history. So a lot of our understandings on things are based on something like that. Whether, again, not saying it's a good or bad thing, it's just a thing. Moving forward into the future with drugs. This is where I think it gets interesting. Now that they're getting studies done on especially marijuana and they're using it for medicinal uses, the oils, I'm not going to promote it, but there isn't really, when you weigh up goods and bads, if you take your grandma's and your grandparents' perspective, your parents' perspective out of it, because when I say why is marijuana bad, do you know how many people don't really have an answer? They're like, because, and then they realize they haven't educated themselves on much. I try my best to have a good understanding on something I'm going to go into a debate about. And so I'm not debating now, I'm just trying to put this on the table. So I try to educate myself because I think it's very interesting where it's going to head next because it is being used for a lot of good. The tax is being used for an extreme amount of good. MDMA is being used in a lot of psychology. Have you ever sat down, like, this is for between the drug users, have you ever sat down, you got off your face, and you're with a whole bunch of people you don't even know, and everyone's telling their whole life stories, even traumatizing events you've never spoken about with your family? This is where MDMA in certain countries is being not used. They're trialing it at the moment for traumatic events. And if you are a dude or chick that's used and you know those moments where you're like, fuck, I just met these cunts, but I feel so good that I'm going to release things that I've bottled for a long period of time. And a lot of people do get stuck in that drug, whatever drug they're on, MDMA being one of them. But like I know people on meth that feel like because they've spilled the beans, they've got some type of connection with these people they just met, which is a bit fucked up. But because you're speaking on something you've never spoken about, and now you're talking about it with a stranger, you feel like there is some type of bond there. I don't know. I'm not a psychiatrist or psychologist or anything like that, educationally, if that's even a word. But I have seen it happen. So now that I see these studies popping out, I'm like, this makes a lot of sense because I am very much I'm aware of my surroundings and I absorb a lot, and that's why I can't remember a lot of things. Because I'm absorbing different things than what most people are. Human interaction is so amazing to me. So I've always, big chunk of my life didn't speak. Now I'm speaking like there's no tomorrow, but during that time I heard. Like there's people who listen and there's people who hear. I can hear. So moving forward into the future, I do think it's a time where we need to discuss it because things are going to slowly start changing. Is New Zealand ready for a change in the marijuana laws? I don't think so. I smoke every day, and I don't think we are. I don't think we're educated enough for this to be a positive for everyone. If it changed tomorrow, I don't see massive changes, but as a consciousness in a society, we are behind when it comes to the rest of the world. We are very much, I'm not going to say primitive, but we're staunch by our old school beliefs. And, I just mean we stay, very much in what our parents taught us. Like when someone says something, I say, where'd you get your information from? A lot of the time they're like, oh, I don't actually know. I don't know what I'm talking about. And it's cool that they do. I'm not trying to bum them out. I'm just like, hey, cool. This person has an opinion. I'm going to, check that opinion. And so with the future, I think there can be a lot more healing done if we do speak about this. I want everyone to put some comments down the bottom. I hope that we can come together because New Zealand, man, we've done some fucking amazing things. We're a small country, man. Put ourselves in the world, fucking stage plenty of times, and we've come out on top, man. And we should be proud of that as a whole, as a society and as a culture. I don't really see any nationality that's different. If you live in New Zealand, you're a Kiwi as to me, bro. I don't care where you came from beforehand. I'm first generation. I was first born out of my family here. My dad's from England. My mum was Māori. And I hope this gives you guys, especially you parents out there, man. I feel for my mum and dad now, especially my mum. years and years later, like, now I'm starting to get those old people worries. Well, not that I let it affect me, but I can imagine for someone who's normal, like my mum and dad, they would have been like, oh my gosh. So, if this has helped you in any way, I'm going to be doing 10 episodes. It's called 10EP with D Tripper. My name's Dave. I used to tag Tripper, so it's Dave Tripper D. Now I just call it Dave D Tripper. That's where the name came from. If you are into it, or you know someone that might need this, share it with them. Not just because I want you to share my video, which I do, but just because I feel like this type of information, there's not much of it out there. Again, not glorifying shit. Trying to make my country a better place. And trying to make it better for the Tamarikis of tomorrow. This is D Tripper signing out. Auckland City, baby, AK in the motherfucking building. New Zealand, baby. I love my country, man. We got some sexy women here. God damn. Think you be coming over here and trying to steal them now, bro? The bros get down, cuzzy. But nothing but peace, love, and positivity. Always the message. Nothing but love. And that's me. Outro. That was kind of like a weird nipple rub on the way out.